Hello, crypto world. Welcome to the Chart Historian. My name is Justin, and on this channel, I delve deep into crypto charts, exploring chart structures, fractals, and patterns. In this video, I'd like to touch on what XRP is doing. I'm going to present two different scenarios. I'm going to present a bullish case, and I'm going to present a bearish case. I'm also going to look at the broader market, the broader stock market. I believe where we are at this present moment is a very unique point in history. There's a lot taking place, and honestly, some of this is stuff that we haven't really experienced before in crypto. So let's dive into the XRP chart and examine what I believe is taking place. Okay, so bam, here we go. Boxes and fractals. That's what I do. So XRP has a repetitive bull run structure. The repetitive part of the bull run structure is these three corrective structures that you see in these different boxes. So you can see that first box where you have that first correction. It comes out of that range-bound time, and this is the first largest correction that develops on the chart. That's your first corrective structure. It moves out of that, moves into the second corrective structure. The unique thing about this, it has two parts to it, separated by a move up. Either of these can be the larger of the two. Once it makes it out of this second corrective structure, it goes into the third corrective structure. So typically, normally, after this third corrective structure, it moves up in a series of 7 moves once it gets above this high and it comes to a peak. Believe it or not, there are 7 moves, as I've mentioned on previous videos. You have to be on an hour time frame, but you can count 7 moves, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That brings it to a peak. After the peak, we have this. So we are potentially at a point where we could say that this is the peak of the bull run for this cycle. Now, there is a possibility that it could go up higher. Let me explain why. So after it gets above the third corrective structure, sometimes there is pullbacks, something similar to this maybe, but on a much, much smaller scale. This is just incredibly large, which is very unusual if we still are in a bull run. I have not totally closed the door to the bull run because there is bullish stuff that is taking place. First off is this fractal. So this fractal comes from this box right here. It's the third corrective structure, just stretched out to match the timing, height, and depth that's taking place over here. As you can see, there are similarities. So it kind of winds its way down, works its way up to another peak. Now, the way it's playing out on today's chart is different from the way it played out here, but the basic idea, as you can see, is repeating. Which brings up an important point. So when a fractal repeats, the timing, height, and depth, that's going to be unique to the new iteration of the fractal, even though the basic idea from over here is repeating. So this can allow for novelty. It can make for a situation where it can play out on a larger scale or a smaller scale. It can make for a situation where one part of the fractal maybe moves up higher than what the fractal suggested or lower. So it allows for some originality. On top of that, there could also be some deviations along the way. Like, for instance, this big dip that took place. If you take that dip out, you get this smoother kind of move down to a trough, which the fractal suggests. So given all the timing, height, and depth differences and the deviations here and there, we are potentially continuing to follow this structure. If this is at play, we could potentially be at this point right here. Now, if something changes on this structure for a while was matching and then it didn't match, but as the chart continued to develop, it began to kind of resemble it again. So we could potentially be working on something like this, and if this is what's at play, we should soon see a move up, and this move up should not be just a mere retracement, but it should be a move to a new all-time high. Now, I don't know where that all-time high will peak out at, but this is a possibility. This is a bullish scenario. Okay, I'm going to show you a bearish scenario now. Okay, so I went back in time. This is the 2021 bull run peak. If we were to take this structure where it comes to a peak right here and copy all this decline and this bounce and paste it on today's chart, it would look something like this. So as you can see, there is similarity. Let's zoom in. So once again, we are following the basic concept that this fractal suggests. If we are doing this, we're potentially in a kind of a flat area. Actually, if you compare this structure, this 2021 bull run decline structure, to the structure we were just looking at, that is this third corrective structure, we see that they're fairly similar. Of course, there's differences here and there, but they do the same concept on a larger picture. They both kind of wind their way down to a point, and even at the part where we're potentially at right now, they both do something similar. The third corrective structure kind of arches down, whereas this one sort of goes flat. Where they differ, and this is important, is in their move out of this part right here. This 2021 bull run structure is only a retracement, whereas this structure right here from this third corrective structure, this is a bullish move that will bring it to an all-time high. So if we are at this point, and if it's traveling at this speed, which I believe it is, at least as of now, that's the way it looks, we potentially will need to work our way through this, and this move up will become really crucial in determining whether or not we're following a mere retracement and we've already set the peak and we're in a declining structure, or we see a continuation of the bull run. Now, there's one other thing that makes me lean more bearish with all of this. Most XRP bull runs are short. This is what an XRP bull run typically is. Well, all this. This is actually quite a long consolidation. They're usually small consolidations. For the most part, you do get big ones every now and then, so we can't rule it out, but typically they last a month or two, not something like this. So that makes me think that this could actually be the peak. I've done a video where I go into counting the days on an XRP bull run. You can watch that video right here. So now that I've shown you two different possibilities on the XRP chart, what I'd like to do is I'd like to show you the XRP dominance, because that is also, I believe, giving us clues as to what could potentially take place. Okay, so here we are at the XRP dominance chart, and it's my belief that this chart has a repetitive macro structure to it. So it starts with a move up, and then over time it winds down. I take this part where it winds down and break it into separate structures. So I label them 1 through 9, and then it repeats all over again. It shoots back up, and then it winds its way down to a point. Now, this blue line is essentially this structure just matched to the timing, height, and depth. We can zoom in on this. So here we are zoomed in. Now, if we were to, for instance, compare this structure right here, box 4, you can see the first fractal moves up to a peak, which is essentially this right here. And as you can see, the structure in this box does what the fractal suggests. And then the next part of the fractal is the move down, which, once again, it follows the basic idea. And we can see that same structure where I copied it from over here, just stretched out to the timing, height, and depth that we see over here. Well, we keep doing that to the whole entire structure, and we find that there is a match. So we potentially are in this part right here, which would be this. Let's zoom in and take a look at it. Okay, so here we are zoomed in. I've actually made a video on this structure. You can watch it over here. As you can see, it moves up, and it's been following the basic idea. So this is a bullish structure. Now we're going through a pullback, which is larger than what it suggests on the fractal here. And that's okay to a certain point, but we don't want to see this kind of continue on and just kind of turn down lower and lower. We want to see, if this is at play, we need to see a move up. Now, I don't know how high this move up will go, but it eventually comes to a peak, and that's the top right here. Well, if we take this top and compare it to what's going on over here, now, so this is the bullish outlook. Let me show you the bearish outlook. Okay, so this is that peak structure matched to the timing height and depth of this part of the chart. And as you can see, it is following the basic idea as well. This is why I was talking about we don't want to see it turn over or potentially just kind of keep going flat like this, because we would be conforming to this structure, which is a topping structure, folks. So my channel focuses on structures and fractals, and from a structural point of view, XRP is actually at a very interesting place right now. We have gone beyond the typical normal bull run that takes place, the typical time frame that a bull run takes place, and we're now potentially in this weird point where it could be bullish. There are bullish structures that we can compare back to, and there's also bearish ones. I believe we're nearing a point where things are going to become clearer as things continue to play out. Okay, so this is XRP, but what about Bitcoin? Bitcoin really does play a key role in crypto at large. Let's take a look at what the Bitcoin chart is doing. So this is Bitcoin, and the fractal that I have on is the peak structure where it makes the all-time high back in 2021. So just as I showed you the 2021 peak structure and decline of the XRP chart, well, we are now looking at the same time frame and comparing it to today's chart. And as you can see, it has been following this structure for quite a while. Now, I've also been comparing today's chart back to the 2017/18 peak and decline structure. I'll show you how that looks. So here is the 2017 and 2018. So it peaks out, I believe, in 2017, and the decline is in 2018. Now, this again has, for the most part, followed. It's been a good follow until this part right here. It seems to be following the 2021 iteration of the Bitcoin decline more so. Let's jump back to the 2021. So we are at a crucial point. It is possible that it can break from this and move up and make a new all-time high. I don't believe it's going to be a race to 200K or even 150K. It might get above this high, but I don't know how much higher it would go. Maybe in the 120s or 130s. I don't know. I really don't know height, at least from a structural analysis point of view. But Bitcoin needs to break free from these peak and decline fractals. It's held hostage at the moment by them. Every time you think it's going to break out, it gets pulled back in and continues to follow. Crypto doesn't exist in a bubble. There's a bigger market, and that is the stock market. And to really kind of get a good feel for what's taking place in the crypto world, we need to also be aware of what's taking place in the broader market. So let's jump over to the stock market. Okay, so this is the Dow Jones, and for those of you who follow this channel, you've been introduced to this fractal. So this fractal, for those of you who are new, is from this box here. That is December 2018 to March 2020. This crash right here is the C19 crash. Well, if we take this fractal right here, or this part of the chart, stretch it to match the timing height and depth over here, this is what we get. As you can see, we are, it looks like, as of now, in this decline. I have theorized that maybe it's still maybe this peak right here, but it's just going really low, folks. So with the available data that we have on the chart right now, the safest bet is to assume that we've begun the decline. Now, this red line is a potential target zone. Let me zoom out. So it's basically a trend line that follows the low first printed in 98, and then the bounce here in 2003, and then in 2009. And the reason why I chose this out of the million other possibilities is because this decline is the same amount that the Dow Jones declined in the 1929 crash. Now, I have no idea if it will crash that much. It could be less. It actually could be more. The reason why I am drawing a connection back to the 1929 structure is because the Dow Jones, for the past 90 years, has been also repeating the structure from the beginning of the Dow Jones to the 1929 peak. And it, like I said, it's taken over 90 years, and we are at the peak. Well, I believe this was the peak of it, and we potentially are beginning the decline. So this decline in 1929, it starts in 1929, ends in 1932, and it crashes like 89 point something percent. So if it did something like that, we could see something like this. Now, I'm not saying it's going to, but I'm just using history as a guide. I don't know where this crash will go to. Who knows? Maybe we'll get lucky and we'll dodge this bullet and it will just go sideways or move up. As of now, it does look like it's following not only this C19 structure, but the 1929 one. And you can watch my most recent video right here, where I talk about that 1929 fractal. Okay, so this is the S&P 500. I know many analysts compare crypto to the S&P 500, so I am including it in this video. If you take that same box, December 2018 to March 2020, which has the C19 decline, copy and paste it, this is what you get. Really, all the indexes are saying the same thing. Let's look at the NASDAQ. So here's the NASDAQ. You take the same time frame and just stretch it to match the timing height and depth over here, and this is what we get. Now, once again, I don't know how low this will go, but it does seem that we have begun on the decline part. So the question now is, if the stock market is declining, and by the way, we can look at the Russell 2000, it's the same story. So here's the Russell 2000. It's the same story. So the question now becomes, if the stock market is going to be doing something like this, how can crypto even have a chance? Well, this presents us with several possibilities. One, this was the peak in crypto, and we are now not going to see any new all-time highs. This is what's in store. Things will decline. However, I would counter that and say, well, so far, when we've had these big moves down, with the Dow especially, and we compare the Dow to Bitcoin, which is here at the bottom, we can see that Bitcoin actually has held up quite well. Like, if we look at the decline here, well, Bitcoin is actually moving up. So it brings up the possibility that we could potentially see crypto decouple, at least for a time. Maybe it will be a flight to safety where people will run to crypto trying to escape the stock market, at least for a short amount of time. I don't know. That's speculation. The other possibility is that the stock market is able to pull back up. Like I said, the way it's behaving, it's possible, but it doesn't look that probable at the moment. So I would say, given the decoupling we see here, maybe this is a hint of what is to come if this continues to decline. It's guesswork right now, folks. This is uncharted waters. We haven't gone through a decline like we could potentially be going into in the stock market with crypto. So this is uncharted waters. I don't know the answer, but those are a few different possibilities at least. One last chart to look at. So this is the DXY, or the US dollar index. Now, I've done videos on this in the past. This structure that we're copying over here is from 1985 to 2002. It's basically this whole swing right here. Well, I have basically just taken this whole fractal, stretched it to the timing height and depth over here. It's developed enough. I've been following this for years, folks, and it's developed enough to where you can stretch it like this and you can kind of see that, hey, yeah, I do see similarities. So it is my belief that the DXY has most likely reached its peak. Maybe there's one other little smaller peak within this greater peak here, although the way it's declining makes me think that we could potentially be at this moment right here. So If that is the case, what we will see is a long protracted decline like we see here or like we see here. Now, these declines are going to last years. The DXY kind of does these swings. So starting in the 1960s, we could see it swoops down and then swoops back up and then comes to a peak in 1985 and then does the same thing again, comes to another peak in 2002. It's just repeating that same macro structure. So we would potentially be embarking on the move down soon. This could be the beginning of it, or maybe we have one more little bounce before that happens. I don't know. But if it continues to move down aggressively like this, I would say that the peak is in and something like this is in store, which could potentially also be good for crypto. So we'll have to see how all this kind of comes together, but there's a lot happening in the stock market, in the crypto world. It's interesting times, folks. It's not easy to navigate. For me, it's kind of a wait and see how things develop, and every day can bring something new to the table. But these are also big, like this, and the DXY is a large fractal that takes years. What we're looking at in the stock market is also large structures that have taken years to develop. Anyways, I hope you found this video helpful. This is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, but if you did find this video informative and interesting, I recommend hitting that subscribe button. If you found this video helpful, it'd also be nice if you hit that thumbs up button. You know, I have a Patreon. Actually, it's a Discord, but it's connected to my Patreon. I'm active there. You're welcome to join. It's a $5 a month subscription. I'll put a link to my Patreon in the description of this video. I'm so glad you caught this video. I hope you catch my next one. Have a great day, and bye for now.